You're in space. You're in outer space.
I was raised in a cult, the Mormon Church, and which is an anti-LGBTQI plus hate cult. And so pretty much hated myself for being gay from the time I had my first sexual feelings. So I was through with college and trying to start a career, and got to a point where I was, no matter how hard I tried to make myself want to put my hands on girls' tits, I just never could. And so I was, I was about 30 and just decided either I come out or I'm just going to end it. And so about the time that I came out, I discovered Bear magazine, the very earliest issues in the early black and white issues. And it was, it was sort of revelatory because it was like, here are my people. Bear magazine, I was able to figure out that there was something like a bear community, and at least in San Francisco, and early on in the early 90s, I was volunteering for the LGBT community center. This is back in the day when a pride festival was actually for the community and not for the corporations. We thought, hey, why doesn't Salt Lake have some kind of a bear organization? And so we put together the first organized, along with some other friends, put together the first organized bear club in Salt Lake that started meeting in 1996. So our house was Bear Party Central in Salt Lake for years. So we would have a lot of bear parties here, holiday parties. We would have play parties. We would have hot tub parties. And we kind of coordinated a lot of that. I mean, the internet changes so fast. I can't even remember what they were back then. But I adopted it as an online handle. And so I had a guy that was doing chub for chub porn videos. And he approached me to do a video. And so I just used that as my porno name. And I want to be in bed by then because I'm an old fart now. It's made it harder for the community to feel like a community because it seems like it's fragmented. There's the scruff bears, and then there's the bears that work on other apps and Grindr, the gay community, which it just seems like it's separate worlds now. Yeah, Becky Moss had a really long run of doing a gay and lesbian talk show on one of the local, I guess, public radio stations. So she started in the early 80s, and I think she went until after the turn of the millennium. Recently, I've become very disgusted with the Utah Democratic Party, and, basically they can go fuck themselves. And so I'm not involved in that anymore. Hey, if you feel like a guy, or if you feel like this community is the community that you want to be involved in, then you're a bear. I can't promise to remember the name, but you bet I remember the dick. So
okay.
I think they want to project the image that they're less hateful than they used to be, but deep down, they're a racist, sexist, anti-LGBTQI hate cult. They would hook electrodes up to them. They would show them gay porn. And if they became aroused, then they would give them electrical shocks, or they would administer syrup of Ipecac so that they would vomit. They're not hateful homophobes. And they look at their church and they say, "Why are you such evil homophobes?"
Mm-hmm.
And they're just leaving. They've lost the whole millennial generation and a big chunk of the post millennial generation. They don't want anything to do with this church, even though they were brought up in it, because it's downright evil.
How is it
Yeah.
different for men versus for, well, men are, of course, men, it's fine for men to have multiple relationships and marriages. For women,
The history of the Mormon church is that it started as this bizarre frontier sex cult where the earliest leaders were doing it so that they could rack up as many sex with as many women as they could. In Mormon heaven, the Mormon men will have multiple wives who will give birth to spirit children, his spirit children, and the wives in Mormon heaven, women in Mormon heaven, they get to look forward to having some fraction of a man sometimes when he's around and not banging his other spirit wives. It's a cult when, if there's ever a question between, or if there's ever a choice to be made between your family and the church, if you choose the church, then it's a cult. And most Mormons, at least when they're faced with that kind of a choice, they'll choose the cult and they'll reject their kids. There's a huge problem in Utah. There's still a huge problem in Utah with homeless queer youth because these kids get to be 15, 16, 17, whatever, and and confess and tell their parents that they're queer, that there's something other than cis het.
Mm.
That was where the Mormon church was founded by a two-bit grifter named Joseph Smith. And he claims that on that hill, an angel led him to a stone box that had been buried there 1,500 years before or something, that had these golden tablets that contained the writings of ancient Americans.
we just interviewed last week, we interviewed from our list, Bear number one, Craig Burns, who is the inventor of the Bear Pride flag. And he had
Mm-hmm.
pictures of the original crayon drawing of the Bear Pride flag. And he's got the original crayons that he used. And also pictures of him at that time from 30 years ago. We interviewed International Mr. Leather about a month ago, and he's going to be our first released full-length video.